بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. All praise and thanks are due solely to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Chooses peace, blessings and salutations upon our master and exemplar Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Just a quick announcement for those watching online. You're going to have, for the first couple of minutes, poor sound. So mix up with the equipment. It's a long story, I'm not going to get into it. But the equipment is on its way, and then the sound will improve. So bear with us, inshallah ta'ala. And you will have a proper setup, inshallah. But until then, we'll be making some dhikr, and therefore it should be okay. You should be able to hear. We have somebody monitoring the comments, so if there are any specific comments that you wish to share, you may share so on whichever platform you are joining us from, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. Well, as you can hear, my voice is back, alhamdulillah. So we're going to take advantage of that tonight, inshallah. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. إلى حضرة النبي المصطفى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأهل بيته وأزواجه الكرام. الفاتحة. Now we say Surah Al-Fatiha, and our intention is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward thereby all of our loved ones who have passed on from this world, and to remove all the difficulties that we find ourselves going through in this world. That Allah Ta'ala remove the pandemic from us entirely and return our ummah back to the Masjid. Al-Fatiha. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. لا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. لا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد. لا إله الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا إليك وما أنزل من قبلك وبالآخرة هم يوقنون أولئك على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون وإلهكم إله واحد لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يئوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وإن تبدوا ما في أنفسكم أو تخفوه يحاسبكم به الله فيغفر لمن يشاء ويعذب من يشاء والله على كل شيء قدير آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إسرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين ورحمة الله وبركاته عليكم أهل البيت إنه حميد مجيد إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا إن الله وملائكته يصلون يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل أفضل الصلوات على أسعد مخلوقاتك حبيب الله محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم عدد معلوماتك ومداد كلماتك كلما ذكرك الذاكرون وغفل عن ذكرك الغافلون اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد عدد خلقك ورضا نفسك وزنة عرشك ومداد كلماتك كلما ذكرك الذاكرون وغفل عن ذكرك الغافلون وسلم رضي الله تبارك وتعالى عن أصحاب رسول الله أجمعين وأنت حسبنا ونعم الوكيل ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم أستغفر الله العظيم فاعلموا أنه أفضل ذكر حقا لا إلا الله حي موجود لا إله إلا الله حي باق لا إله إلا الله حي مقصود لا إلا الله حي الذي لا ينام ولا يموت لا إله إلا الله ولا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله حق لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله حق لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله حق لا إله إلا الله لا إله حق لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله حق لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله حق لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله حق لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله حق لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله حق لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله حق لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله حق لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله سيدنا محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كلمة حق عليها نحيا وعليها نموت وعليها وبها نبعث إن شاء الله تعالى من الآمنين آمين برحمة الله وكرمه جزا الله عنا سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم خيرا بما هو أهله جزا الله عنا سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم خيرا بما هو أهله جزا الله عنا سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم خيرا بما هو أهله. Again, I'm just going to apologize to those online. I'm not sure how the sound is right now, but inshallah we'll get the stuff in a moment. For now, you'll be hearing me through the Masjid sound, so it might sound a bit echoey and it might be a bit unclear as to what I'm saying. But our apologies for that. As for the lesson this evening, will continue inshallah ta'ala from Surah Ikhlas until the end. Now, we've looked at various ahadith about the very beginning, the salawat, and then the three calls. So let's just take a moment to focus specifically on the last of the three calls, Qul huwa Allahu ahad. Oh, the first video. Now you look at it, Surah Al-Ikhlas, we recite 3 times. And then we recite Surah Al-Falaq and Surah Al-Nas once each in the dhikr. However you can, as you've heard in previous ahadith, recite each one 3 times. But why the significance of reciting Surah Al-Ikhlas specifically 3 times? There are several ahadith in this regard. The most prominent of them would be the fact that the Prophet ﷺ said that the one who recites Surah Al-Ikhlas 3 times, it is as though he recited the entire Qur'an. That would probably be the reason why that surah particularly is repeated thrice, and Allah knows best, right? Remember, all of this is my speculation as to why Imam al-Haddad had compiled the adhkar in the way that it is in the Ratib. What does Ratib mean? It means a compilation. So the Ratib al-Haddad is essentially a compilation of adhkar by Imam al-Haddad. What is my objective in doing this? What is my objective in doing this? I was talking to a colleague the other night and they were saying, yeah, no, it's clear, it's so that you can have so that people can know the dalil for the hadat. That's not quite right. It's not the dalil for the hadat, so to speak. What's the camera for? It is actually a reason for us to connect to what we've already been reciting all our lives in a deeper way. That's the reason for it. The reason for this class is not to say that, okay, everybody must be making haddad. The reason for this class is to say that, look, we're all doing the Ratib al-Haddad in our culture, in our homes, among our families, in any case, so we might as well connect to it on a deeper level. Instead of just a cultural thing that we do once in a while, at special occasions, at janazas, etc. Oh, this way you can see me. Instead of doing that, we actually connect to it. No, it's not here. Excuse me. Anna. Okay. The black patch. Is it? It's not here. Small black patch. Okay. I'm not going to stress about this, people. Can the people hear me?
They say they can.
They can. Okay. The math meter. Ik ben zo aanhoudt. En then the people in the Masjid, I'm going to put up the slides, inshallah ta'ala. So, to connect with on a deeper level, I actually want everybody to take the Ratib al-Haddad as a daily recitation. That you recite with your families at home before bedtime or after Maghrib. But not the way that we recite it here, it's going to take you too long, right? In a much quicker way. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad 3 times. And then you recite your Fatiha. And then you go on to your 3 calls. And then the Fatiha. And then the beginning of Alif Lam Mim. And so on. Very quickly, I actually asked Malana Salim to come back again for another week just to demonstrate to us how we can recite the whole thing without doing the whole lagu thing. So that we can take it as a personal form of recitation. Now, what we recited up until the point of, I think the salawat, right? We wrote, إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَمَلَائِكَتَهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا صَلُّوا عَلَيْهِ وَسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا. Up until that point, it is Qur'an. Now, what you will have noticed is sometimes I am pulling where you're not pulling, and sometimes I'm going quickly over what you would normally pull. That has got everything to do with tajweed and makharij, right? For example, and we've been saying this every week, but I'm going to be a bit more specific. Normally we say, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدُ لَمْ يَلِدْ وَلَمْ يُولَدْ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. So that's the normal way with the lagu, and there's a lot of mistakes in there. Mostly with the pulling. For example, it's 2 pulls. Qul huwa Allahu ahad. Not Qul huwa Allahu ahad. Right? First one. Qul huwa Allahu ahadun illahu samad. Like it's samad, is a qalqala again. But the qalqala is a small bounce. Samad. Not samad. For example, so these things may appear to be insignificant, inconsequential, but to the contrary, we're dealing with Quran. Imagine you must sit in front of your Qur'an teacher and your bacha, the way we normally bacha that they stop your class. I don't know if they still do that, but it wouldn't be acceptable because the Qur'an must be recited in a certain way. So we've emphasized that. And the whole reason behind us repeating it here so that you can hear what it should sound like and could sound like, even with some lagu. So I still try to keep the lagu somewhat, but giving emphasis to the tajweed and the makharij, right? Even more important than where to pull and where to emphasize. Like, for example, people would normally say, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ, but it's supposed to be قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ, مَلِكِ النَّاسِ, and not nas. It's not a mad. It's just a tuple, nas. It's an alif, right? So even more important than the pulls and the emphases is the what? Pronunciation, the makharij, saying the right words, right? And I could gather this as early on as the salawat. So now once you get to the salawat, there you can hear, now I'm going completely normal lagu, I think so. Completely normal lagu, right? That is because no longer do the rules of pulling and emphasizing and those things apply. For example, Allahumma salli afdala salawati. I'm pulling all the wrong places there, but it's okay because it's not Quran. It's salawat, it's dhikr. Is everybody with me? So there the lagu comes back full on, no problem. But the pronunciation is still important because you change one letter, you could potentially change the meaning. Right? And I've seen some, I thought I would show you an example of that the other day after Jumu'ah. He played me a clip when he was sitting in the Haddad, people reciting Bismillah alladhi la yadurru ma'a ismihi shay'un fil ardi wa la fis sama'. But it clearly sounds like they're saying Bismillah alladhi la yanduru. That's a problem because listen to the translation as it should be. Bismillah alladhi la yadurru. In the name of Allah, who does not harm. Bismillah alladhi la yanduru means in the name of Allah who cannot see. Nadara yanduru means to see, the other one means to harm. Right? La yadurru ma'a ismihi shay'un fil ardi wa la fis sama'i wa huwa as-sami'ul 'alim. Nothing in the heavens, nothing on earth can harm if you are in the name of Allah. Bismillah alladhi la yadurru ma'a ismihi shay'un fil ardi wa la fis sama'i wa huwa as-sami'ul 'alim. The Prophet ﷺ said, if he recites that dua 3 times in the morning, 3 times in the evening, that person will be protected from harm throughout the day. So it comes from hadith, it's certainly worthy recitation. But again, be very careful of the pronunciation. There's an easy way around this, but the easy way around this doesn't actually work. What is the easy way around this? Recite from the kitab. But why doesn't it work? It doesn't work because I've seen, I don't know why and how, but even when people sit with the kitab, when there's a contradiction between what the kitab says and what they have always been saying, they will default back to what you've always been saying. It's just like it's built in. The kitab will forget this, right? And that's understandable because it's so, I mean, before we can talk, we've been hearing these languages and these words, so it makes sense. So that's the issue there. And then in the salawat, I can pick up a few things like عَدَدَ خَلْقِكَ وَرِضَا. Hardly anybody says these words correctly. I think I hear عَدَدَ something. Differently, عَدَدَ means number of. So salawat, Allah sends salawat to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. عَدَدَ خَلْقِكَ, to the number of creation, to the number of creatures in creation. عدد خلقك ورضا نفسك, and to the extent that you are pleased with. ورضا نفسك وزنة عرشك, and to the extent of the beauty of your throne. So it has meaning. It's not just like sound big words. It has actual meaning. And if you change a letter, and remember, we're not talking about emphasis and pulls, we're talking about saying the incorrect letter, then you're not saying that, and you could potentially be saying something very problematic, as I showed you in the earlier example. And then another one that is frequently highlighted, or at least in my mind is frequently highlighted, is the in the Ashra Qal, right? It's Ashra Qal, by the way, not Ashra Kal, but that's not such a big deal, I think. Actually, it is a big deal. That's Ashra Qal, and Ashra Kal would mean completely something else. Because Ashraqa, Sharq, Ashraqa from Sharaqa, Ashraqa al-Badru alayna, the full moon has risen upon us. Ashraka, with a kaf, comes from Sharaka, which means to be a partner, and shirk, and mushrik, and all that other bad stuff. This is a big deal. When we say, Anta Shamsun, Anta Badrun, I've mentioned this one before. Anta Shamsun, Anta Badrun. Beautiful words to the Prophet ﷺ. Words of shirk, if you say it to Allah. But then because of the language again, what we default to is some people, Allah Anta, and placing Allah's name in front, that automatically means Allah, you are the Son. Na'udhu billah. You understand? So it is important that you actually learn the fiqh of dhikr, just to understand exactly the do's and the don'ts. It's a beautiful thing, but now you can probably see why many ulama sometimes get irritated with it, or try to get rid of it. Or it's not. Sometimes it's because they believe it's a bid'ah, that's, bid'ah sayyah, bad innovation. That's one thing. It's a discussion we can have. But predominantly, it's because people don't like bacha properly. So you imagine, you have look at Sheikh Yusuf Budi rahimahullah ta'ala. His whole life was dedicated to making sure that the kalam of Allah is recited correctly. Can you blame a man like that for becoming irritated when people around him are bachaing, the kalam of Allah in the completely incorrect way? So you can just try to sort of empathize with the others. Right, so I want to go into Surah Fatiha specifically now, because after Surah Al-Ikhlas, we go to Surah Fatiha. Why do we recite Surah Fatiha? For many reasons, but listen to the beautiful hadith of the Prophet ﷺ in this regard. Abdullah ibn Abbas said, I'm just going to do the translation, right? While Jibreel والسلام, was sitting by the Prophet ﷺ, they heard نقيصا من فوقه, they heard a sound from above them. فرفع رأسه, he raised his head. فقال, he then said, Jibreel said, هذا باب, this is a door, this is a gate in the sky, in the heavens, that has been opened today, that has never ever been opened before, except on this day. An angel descended from it. And Jibreel said to the Prophet ﷺ, this angel, he came down to earth, but he's never come down to earth before this day. He greeted and he said, I bring you good news, of something that you have already been given. So it's something that the Prophet ﷺ already has, and the angel says, I'm bringing you good news about that. Two things. No Nabi has ever been given these two things or the like of them before. What are they? Fatihatul Kitab, Surah Fatiha, wa khawatim Surah Al-Baqarah, and the end of Surah Baqarah. The end of Surah Baqarah, right? Lillahi ma fi samawati wa ma fi al-ard, till the end. That's the piece that it's talking about. So it makes perfect sense. Okay, so that's why I think it's an extremely powerful section of the Quran for both intellectual and spiritual reasons. How so? That would require much more time. But we've spoken about Fatiha on various occasions during khutbah, etc. Inshallah, if there's some time, we could perhaps look at it again. But the Fatiha represents, it is an intellectual representation of the entire Quran, in some way. And it is a spiritual representation of the entire Quran. And it is a thematic representation of the entire Quran. The themes found in it are expounded upon in the rest of the Quran. So that's the one point. And then the end of Surah Baqarah, it has the nature of it. لِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَإِن تُبْدُوا مَا فِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَوْ تُخْفُوهُ يُحَاسِبُكُم بِهِ اللَّهُ. It's describing the relationship between Allah and ourselves in a beautiful way, and how Allah is very close to us, so much so that He knows what we disclose and what we keep secret. And then it carries on, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear. You know how powerful this verse is in relation to a person who's going through difficulty? And one of the reasons why people engage in dhikrullah is as a means, as a wasila, as a means for Allah to remove difficulty from them. Right? This is why we call it, in Cape Town, what do they refer to it as a haja. It's a haja. We have a haja, we have a need. It's certainly dhikr. Then we say, by extension, we're going to the haja, because now it lost its original meaning. Now it just means the gathering of dhikr. But you make the link there. Okay, so those ayat are included. I want to continue with this. The end of Surah Baqarah, لَن تَقْرَأَ بِحَرْفٍ مِّنْهُمَا إِلَّا أُعْطِيتَهُ. Never will anyone recite a single letter of these two sections except that they will be given it. Except that they will be given it. And this can mean a number of things, but I'd like to point out the fact that in the Fatiha we recite, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, guide us to the straight path. What this says and what that says together means that by reciting it, Allah will guide you. Right? So it's extremely potent as a litany, as a daily recitation. Furthermore, أن إبليس رن حين أنزلت فاتحة الكتاب وأنزلت بالمدينة. Iblis ran away, it literally says he ran away passing wind. Farting, for those who don't know what I'm talking about. Wind, Surah Fatiha. What does this mean? It's probably metaphorical in terms of how scared he was of the power of Surah Fatiha. Another narration. The Prophet ﷺ says to the Sahabi, I'm going to teach that is أعظم surah. It is the greatest of chapters. قبل أن تخرج من المسجد, before you exit the mosque. ثم أخذ بيدي. He then took me by the hand, Sahabi is saying. فلما أراد أن يخرج, when I wanted to leave, or when he wanted to leave, rather, I said, didn't I tell you I'm going to teach you a surah that's the greatest surah in the Qur'an? And then the Prophet ﷺ responded and said, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, referring to Surah Fatiha. He says, هي سبع المثاني, it is the seven oft repeated verses, وَالْقُرْآنُ الْعَظِيمُ, and the manifest, the great Qur'an, الَّذِي أُوتِيتُهُ, which I have been given. So, imagine the Prophet, imagine I come to you and I say, okay, I'm going to teach you one dhikr, one ayah, you recite this, it's the greatest recitation that you can do. Coming from me, even I think you will find it important. You will, yes, tell me. Imagine the Prophet himself comes to you and he says, look, I'm going to teach you something now. So that's the Fatiha. كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في مسير فنزل فمشى رجل من أصحابه إلى جانبه فالتفت إليه فقال ألا أخبرك بأفضل القرآن. Similar situation, the Prophet turns to his companions and he says, shall I inform you of the greatest portion of the Quran? And then he recited, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. طيب, we go to the next one. The Prophet ﷺ said, when the person makes ta'meen, إذا أمن القارئ, when the person who recites says, Ameen, that's ta'meen. Okay? فَأَمِّنُوا, then all those who are witness, you should also say Ameen. فَإِنَّ الْمَلَائِكَةَ تُؤَمِّنُ, because the angels are also saying Ameen. فَمَنْ وَافَقَ تَأْمِينُهُ تَأْمِينَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ, whosoever their Ameen coincides with the angels' Ameen, غُفِرَ لَهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنْبِهِ, automatically all these sins are forgiven. This is why it is sunnah, at least in the Shafi'i madhab, when in salah we say غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ, everybody recites Ameen, and it's extended. It's not extended. Sometimes people think, oh, the people are just pulling it because it's lagu or something. No, it's not lagu at all. This is from the sunnah. We extend it a bit so that we have a greater chance of coinciding with the malaika. But don't be that one Buddha. That when everybody's done with the recitation of the second surah, then they know how they decide and say Ameen. Right? That's going a bit too far. Okay? Couple of huruf, the extent of a mad. A mad, what's the count of a mad? 6 pulls. That's okay. Allah knows best. Then, included with the Fatiha is Surah Baqarah, because now we go immediately from the Fatiha, we go to Alif Lam Mim, the beginning portions, and then we go to Ayat al-Kursi, and then we go to the end portion. So the Prophet ﷺ said about Surah Al-Baqarah, do not make your homes graveyards, because shaitan will run away from a house in which Surah Baqarah is recited. I've heard men while growing up quoting this hadith as a hujjah. No, you don't have to go make salah in the masjid because the Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, don't make your homes into graveyards. No, that's a misunderstanding of what he was saying, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It's referring to the recitation of Qur'an and the praying of sunnah salahs in the home. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam always prayed salah in the masjid, fard salahs. But the sunnahs before that fard salah, at home. He lived 10 feet away from the mosque. Right? The sunnahs after the fard salah, at home. Is it sunnah for us as well? Yes, it is. So you could potentially come to the masjid just for the fard and then leave. But if you know yourself that you're not going to do it at home, then it's best to do it in the masjid. And if it's not, if it's not going to be not convenient, but you won't be able to manage, because if you're going to first make your sunnahs at home and then come to the mosque, by the time you get to the mosque, the salah is over, then again, it wouldn't make sense. But that's what the hadith is referring to. But here, the lesson that we take is, by reciting Surah Baqarah in our homes, shaitan will run away from our homes. Not just walk away, run away from our homes. The Prophet ﷺ said, indeed the house in which Surah Baqarah is recited, shaitan won't even enter into that house. Then we go to Ayat al-Kursi. I'm sure you've heard the virtues, the fadail of Ayat al-Kursi before, so here are a few. ما أرى أحدا يعقل دخل في الإسلام ينام حتى يقرأ آية الكرسي. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, I can't see a person of intellect, a person who is rational-minded, who will enter into Islam and not recite Ayat al-Kursi every night of their lives. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, he was asked which ayah in the Quran is a'zam, is the greatest, not which surah. We know already which surah is Surah Fatiha. Which ayah is the greatest? The Prophet, peace be upon him, responded, Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum. Allah, there is no deity except Him alone. He is the ever-living, the self-subsisting. فَضَرَبَ صَدْرِي. And then the Prophet ﷺ, he hit my chest. وَقَالَ, the Prophet ﷺ hit the chest of Abu Bakr. Not he didn't hit his chest. He did this to his chest. There's a few ahadith that speak about this. And the Prophet ﷺ prayed for Abu Mundhir for ilm, that Allah Ta'ala grant him ilm. Right? So you will see some scholars, some mashayikh that practices similar to this. Place their hand on the head of the child, for example, or make tahdeeq for the child, or that type of thing. Place their hand on somebody's shoulders, or touch their heart. It's not just hibbity-jibbity, it's actually following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Whosoever recites Ayat al-Kursi at the end, oh, this is a beautiful one, subhanAllah. Even just the way the Prophet ﷺ says these words is striking. I mean, listen to it, and then think about the various ways that one could say the same thing. And of all those ways, the Prophet ﷺ said it like this. Whosoever reads Ayat al-Kursi at the end of every fard salah, nothing prevents him from entering Jannah except death. Ajib. It's an amazing expression. Even just, not just what he's saying, but how he is saying it. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So that's included in there as well. We know the narration about Abu Hurairah, peace be upon him, Allah be pleased with him, who caught Shaitan. Shaitan was in physical form, he caught Shaitan. Shaitan then told him, look, I'm going to teach you about which ayah you can recite that will protect you from me and all of my progeny, all of the jinn. What was the ayah that he was pointing to? Ayatul Kursi. And we end. Listen to this salawat, right? The virtue of the salawat in particular. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمْ رِجَسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. Long story short, the Prophet ﷺ turned to his family and he said to them, Hassan, this was Hassan, Hussein, Fatima, and Ali, radiallahu ta'ala anhum. Oh, this is a hadith about which we can speak a lot in terms of the whole Sunni Shi'i difference, but that's not why we are here. We've discussed that in a previous course. This is the words he said to his family. These are the words. إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. Sound familiar? It's included in there as well. This is salawat, not just to the Prophet ﷺ, from the Prophet ﷺ, and includes his entire family. Allah wants to remove all the sins and all the filth away from you, O people of my household, and purify you completely. And then what do we respond? إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمْ رِجْسَ أَهْلِ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. And then we respond, إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَمَلَائِكَتَهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ. Indeed, Allah and His angels send salutations upon the Prophet ﷺ. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, O believers, you send salutations upon him as well. And then we start, Allahumma salli afdal. Now we actually inciting salawat, which we'll get to next week about what exactly we are saying there and why it's important to keep that as a proper recitation, and that we can incorporate it throughout our days and nights, every day, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the tawfiq. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. And then just lastly, we are waiting for the printer to give us the books. He told us that it's taking long because of the size of the book and the type of binding. But inshallah, it's fine because we haven't actually started with that reading yet. We will within a week or two. So inshallah, I hope to have the books here by next week. Inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allahu